Hey guys, this is Vintage Sims, and today we are building the third lot in my Decades Build Challenge. This lot is the Victorian Gothic Mansion, and it's the second residential lot of the challenge. I wanted to make this look more realistic than like cartoonish Gothic Mansion, because I feel like a lot of Gothic Mansion builds would just be like dark and dingy and use a lot of black and maybe red and purple. But in this build, I use a lot of brown, green, purple, yellow, red, and black, and probably a lot more colors as well, because I wanted it to look more realistic, like an actual human being would live in it, instead of, you know, like a normal human wouldn't just like buy a house and be like, oh, I just want it to be completely black and scary looking. Well, I mean, actually, I would probably buy that, but in the Victorian era, a lot of people weren't living like that. So I tried to use kind of like normal colors mixed with a lot of darker colors that would be in a Victorian mansion. I just didn't want it to look unlivable and kind of flat. And Victorians used a lot of jewel tones, clashing patterns, dark wood, drapery, plants, clutter, frame pictures, and paintings. So you'll see a lot of those features in this build, and I just tried to make it not super like spooky looking. I know it's a gothic build, but I didn't want it to look like it was haunted as well, because I felt like that was maybe too easy almost. So I did try to incorporate a lot of like spookier details in it, but it's not really meant to be that kind of build. More of just gothic styles and some darker colors and such like that. Anyways, we are making the living room right now. The living room ended up being pretty much my favorite room in the entire build. The dining room as well. I just think those rooms both like kick ass. You'll see them at the end, and you'll see them a bit in the machinima that I've made as well. But I just really liked how those two rooms worked out. I feel like I'm best at living rooms and dining rooms, just because there's a lot of like fun things you can do in there, kind of like more decorative things you can do in there, because those weren't rooms that were really like for anything but like sitting and hanging out. But then when I get to kitchens and bathrooms, I get so overwhelmed, because it's more about like things you need to have in there. Like you have to have this in the kitchen, and you have to have this in a bathroom. But when you're making a dining room and a living room, pretty much you just need the basic things, and other than that, you can just go around and do all kinds of crazy things in there. But yeah, I really liked how this living room turned out. I do put these shelves up here and put a bunch more stuff on there because it didn't have enough clutter for my liking. So I did add a bunch of plants and like I think some books and knick-knack kind of things up there just to add clutter. I do put a ton of plants in this build, which I love. I love that Victorian people used so many plants in their houses, because I think it just really makes everything look a lot prettier. And I love the green kind of off balancing the rest of the colors, because without the green it would look a lot darker in here. And I love this wallpaper that I have in the dining room. I think that kind of changed everything in the dining room for me. Every other wallpaper that I put in there looked good, but it didn't look, I don't know, it didn't look right. And then with this window at the end, I think it looks really rad. I think I do change the layout of it like a tiny bit. I did have to change the layout of the entire house, so that's why I didn't really show myself making the layout very much, and I didn't show you when I put all the wallpapers in, because I do change pretty much all the wallpaper that I already put down, although I think the floors mostly stay the same. And I realized that I didn't want to just have the Sims walk in and have the bathroom be like right there in front of them, because that's what I had it as originally. So I did add a hallway behind the kitchen or behind the dining room where they can get to the bathroom, and there's some other rooms they can get to, like the kitchen and stuff. But I just thought like this is like a really fancy house, and there's no hallways in it, and there's not ways for them to get to certain rooms unless it's like through the kitchen, and most people aren't gonna have their guests come through the kitchen to go to a fancier room, which especially not in the Victorian era, because mostly people didn't have like a lot of people wouldn't have just like an arch into their kitchen in the Victorian era. They would have like an actual door that led into a kitchen because they didn't want like their friends to see into it, because kitchens weren't always super nice compared to the rest of the house. As you can see, I'm building the kitchen right now, and I started out with this like kind of dingy, crappy wood, but then I was like, well, she's actually kind of rich, so she wouldn't just have like a super crap kitchen. So I did add some like wallpaper and make it a little bit nicer. But as you can see, I was not sure what to do with the kitchen. Maybe you can't tell that, but when I watch this, I'm like, okay, I'm flailing here. What do I add? So I just add a few things around there, like a pot on the stove, a little milk carton. I got some fruit in there, and I have some space for some wall hangings and pictures above the door. I probably use like 300 pictures in this build because I just sized so many of them down, because in a lot of Victorian houses you'll see that they have like hundreds of pictures on the walls of their family and paintings and blah blah blah. So this build is probably really expensive. I don't remember how much it was, but it came out to being a lot. I'm doing the bathroom right now. The countertops that I used for the bathroom were custom content, and when I went back to do more building on it, they were gone, so I had to redo that part of the bathroom with countertops that we actually do have in the game. So later on you'll see that like all that stuff is gone and I had to redo that, but luckily it wasn't that tough to put in like 4 counters and some sinks. And yeah, you'll notice that I do change a lot of stuff later on. I have a tendency of doing builds really late at night, and then I come back to them the next day and I'm like, what is this? What was I doing? Why did I think this was a good idea? And right now I'm adding all these like things for pets because I realized like quarter way into the build, like, wait a second, this sim has a freaking cat, so they should probably have like stuff for their cat to use. Kind of important, especially for the machinima. I don't want my no pets dying during my machinimas. Very important to me. And pretty much the people that are in this machinima are the people that own the house. It's an elderly woman. Her husband died recently, and she has her grandchildren living with her, as the son that she had also passed away, the parents of the kids. So she's just her, the kids, these 2 twin girls, and then they have a butler that lives with them as well, and he has his own little space downstairs away from the rest of the people in the house. And yeah, they have a room that was the room that her husband used to use a lot of the time. So that room is still up there and kept the same pretty much. You'll see it later, but yeah, that's pretty much the backstory of this. And then she's pretty romantic and a bit of a player now that she doesn't have a husband. Like, she's sad her husband's dead, but she's also, you know, getting some, so good for her. And I'm just doing this little outside like planter box thing. It started out just because I was like, oh, there's nothing to put out here, and I'm really bad at landscaping. So I just tried to add little things, and it kind of just turned into this other big thing afterwards. So I add this walkway over there, and then I put the little fence on the outside of the walkway to kind of get some uniformity up in here, not just willy-nilly. And I do think I make it dirt over there. I can't remember actually. I think I do, just because that's kind of like part of this spooky Gothic thing. Ooh, so spooky. They don't take care of their lawn very well. I think I do that. I don't remember actually. I mean, I just watched my build of this just to get it back in my mind, and I literally can't remember what I did anymore. Oh yeah, as you can see, now it is all dirt over there where the trees are, and I meant to add I did add a bunch of trees on the outside of the fence, but then it just looked like there were way too many trees, so I deleted them, so it might look a little bit empty. But yeah, and this is the grandma's bedroom, and as I said, she was like a very romantic kind of person, so I made it a lot of like purples and dark colors, just to kind of make it a little more sensual up in here for her. And that, as you can see, I'm skipping around a little bit. So the room that I showed you just now before this, was the room before I added all this stuff, but I forgot to film myself doing the walls and the floors and stuff, so you missed out on that little chunk, but you get to see me doing the rest of the room. And this is just like a music room. Originally, this was going to be the butler's room, but then I thought, well, he probably wouldn't have like a nice room like upstairs, and I didn't want to add like crappy windows to his room and have like the outside of the house look kind of crappy there, because I didn't want him to have a super nice room. Like, his room isn't bad for sure for what people probably would have had back then if they were a butler, but yeah, I just didn't feel like it was good to have it on the top level or on the main level, just because he's technically like lower class than them. I don't know, it just didn't feel right. So I added some stairs that do lead downstairs into an area for him. And here's me coming back to the bedroom because I was way too tired to figure out what to do. And this room is just such a huge space. It took me a while to figure out how I was going to kind of divide it up. But I did use those dividers there to kind of create a little section for the bedroom. And then I do make her own closet area, because a lot of the people back then, they didn't have like closets like we would have now. They just kind of had like an open door that led into a closet, and then they had to put drapes in front of it to kind of hide whatever. But I just thought that would help, I don't know, add more dimension to the room, so it wasn't just like this big empty space. And then I was trying to put a bar in, but I figured I could just get her one of those little globe bars, because the bars are gigantic and kind of clunky and unattractive. So I figured this piano would work. She's a very musical sim, so she has 2 pianos in her house. One so she can play, you know, with her grandchildren downstairs. They can all get together and sing and play piano. And then we have this one upstairs, so when she has boys over, she can bring them upstairs and entertain them a bit. And you do see in the machinima that she has quite a few boyfriends, or quite a few suitors that are trying to get at her, because she's, you know, she's an older lady, but she's still got it going on, so whatever. And she's rich as heck, so I mean, who wouldn't want to get with this granny, right? And as you can see, I'm putting a heck ton pictures on the walls. I tried to not reuse the same ones in this build, but that kind of got impossible after like 2 rooms in. So you'll see a lot of the same pictures on the walls, but most of them are sized down at least, so you can't really tell that much. I tried to not use like the same photos like gigantic, because that makes it a lot easier to tell, but yeah. And I'm just filling in those walls because it just, I don't know, everything in the Victorian era looked so cluttered and kind of overwhelming with all the clashing patterns, but I think it's like absolutely gorgeous. I've been watching all these fashion videos about the Victorian era, so I've been really into it lately. And here is the room that I was speaking of earlier, the one that her husband used to use. It was his study. And then she just has the butler go in there and keep it clean, but everything is still in the same place that it was when her husband passed away. And no one is allowed to go in there. She doesn't even go in there, just because, you know, bad memories. You don't really want to hang out in a place that reminds you of that. But I just thought it was a really cute study. At first I was trying to make it kind of also like a bar room, but I was like, why would they have a room upstairs, like next to the bedrooms, that was just like a bar? Like, they definitely would have had that downstairs, I'm sure. So it just didn't seem fit, and I thought it looked really cute as a study. I think it's one of the only rooms I used just paint in. Everything else I think had wallpaper and was more cluttered, but that room was just a little bit less cluttered, and I think it looked really good in the end. And right now I'm doing the little girl's room. When I first made it, I didn't really have it in mind for little girls, because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with the machinima yet, and I didn't have the girls made yet. I just had the grandma and the butler. But then I thought it'd be really cute to have these 2 twin girls, and a little bit creepy just because twins are creepy. And so I came in and added these other pieces that I felt were for a little kid's room. I didn't add a ton of stuff for them, but they have like a dollhouse, and then that kitty stuffed animal, that gigantic cat stuffed animal, which I love. I'm a huge cat person, so I've made it to like so many cats in this game so far, and like 1 dog, so sorry dogs. I love you, but you know I'm a cat lover. And here I am making this little hallway. So this big hallway behind the dining room was gigantic and long, and I wasn't sure what to do with all the wall space, so I kind of broke it up a little bit. So there's this little chunk in the corner that leads to the kitchen, and then it also leads to a big hallway, and it just has this like little seat in it for people to sit down in, because Victorians loved chairs and they loved seating and just having seating everywhere for some reason. And so that's the main hallway I'm showing you right now, where I'm hanging some more pictures on the walls. And yeah, I think I'm just finishing things up a little bit. Here is me adding the countertops that got deleted and adding a few things I don't think I put as much work into on the second time round, but oh well. And here is the opening when you first walk in the door. Right where that fireplace is where the bathroom door was, but I was like, I kind of want to have more of a formal entryway where they can sit by the fire, just because people like to sit a lot, and usually in the front of the house, Victorian people would have like all their belongings. They're like, oh, look at all this nice stuff I have, look at all these great chairs I have and paintings on the walls. So they would show off quite a bit in then like the foyer and the dining room and the living room, and then the rest would, I mean, it would still be really nice otherwise, but that's where they really focused their attention, because they were all about showing off their things even if they didn't have a lot of things. And also I think a lot of the reason why they had like chairs everywhere was because the women had to sit down because they were so tightly corseted and just wearing like really heavy clothes. And this is the butler's bedroom. This is the last part of our build. So this is the butler's bedroom. I did make it a little bit smaller because I thought that was way too big. I really liked how it turned out. It's not super nice or super big, but it does seem fitting, and like the lady really appreciates the butler, and he's been there for her for a long time, so she's not gonna just like let him live in squalor, because she's like a part of, or he's like a part of the family. Like on the Aristocats, the butler on the Aristocats, except he doesn't steal her cats and try to murder them and use them for blackmail, so that's great. He's a lot better than that guy. Alright, so we are at the end of this build right now. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked the video. I really appreciate it. I do these videos for a creative outlet because I don't have much money to do anything else creatively. Like, I want to paint, but I do not have money to paint. And so this really fulfills me creatively. I've always loved making houses. I used to make houses out of like cardboard boxes and construction paper when I was a kid, just for fun. So this is, you know, me moving on up in the world. So anyways, this is the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have anything to say. I would love to hear from you. And thank you so much. Have a great day, guys. Bye!